Welcome to episode 5, the route config Kata. In this episode, we're going to create a new route configuration, and the tests will ensure that, for one, our configuration is correct, and secondly, hopefully they will detect any module conflicts that might happen in future. Originally, I wanted to make this episode and the next one into one big episode, but I want to keep each one under 15 minutes, so I decided to split it. Right, now, hope you enjoyed. Have fun. In this kata, we're going to create the configuration for a new front-end route. And by the way, I already created the Magento Kata action controller module following the steps of the plugin config kata, so that's already in place. Now, so we can add the route config, let's create a new test. Route config test, for example. And we'll extend PHP unit framework test case, as almost always. And we'll start with a test nothing test, just to check everything's in order. Hope it is. Yep, very good. So, what will be our real first test? Our real first test will be to check that our module registers the Magento Kata front name. Registers Magento Kata front name. How can we check that? We can check that using a route config interface instance, which we can get using the object manager. Object manager, get instance, create. The main class name is config interface, but Magento 2 has so many config interfaces that makes it really hard to import the right one. And I also don't want to type the full class name because that's just too tedious and error prone if you make as many mistakes as I do typing class names. So what I'll do is I'll look for the base router because that's where it's used. Magento framework app router base, that's the one I want. And here is the router config interface. So I'll copy that, paste that in, and import this so we can give it a nicer name as route config. Okay, add a type hint. And now we can check. Assert contains our module name, Magento Kata action controller, route config, get modules by front name. You can see we could also get the route by front name or the route front name by route ID, but I think this is actually what we're after. So let's use this. And the front name will be Magento Kata. Running the test will fail since we don't have any route configuration in place. Yeah, it fails. We're not getting a real assertion failure here, we're just getting an undefined index notice, but it's a failing test, so that's good enough. So let's go ahead and create the route config. Oh, actually, I missed something. The test has to run in a specific area, because all routes are always associated with a specific area, front-end or admin HTML. So let's rerun the test in the Magento app area front-end to check it still fails, which it should. Yep, fails, very good. So now then, let's create the directory front-end and a routes XML config in there. And the route name in my template, that's just the route ID. Let's call that Magento Kata action controller. And the module name, here it is. Right, so here we have the ID and the front name should actually only be this, and it maps to the module, action controller. Looks good. If you have test cleanup disabled in your test config, right, if you have that disabled, you'll have to clear the sandbox directory because, well, we changed part of the configuration. Now let's rerun the test. Good, and we're green. Good. I believe our configuration is correct. What I would like to do now is I want to ensure that if we add a controller, that it can actually be found. Let's add a test so we don't forget what is our next step, and then we can do a little refactoring. The mage to kata index action can be found. Okay, good enough. But I want to use the object manager in the new test, so I'll extract this here into a field object manager. Let's add a type hint. And I want the assignment to happen in a setup method. Now move this up. Okay, so now what we'll do is, well, first we're going to set the Magento app area to front end again. Alright, now what we'll do is we're going to give the base router a fake request for our controller action and then check it returns the expected instance. But first we have to create the fake request. Object Manager, create. And let's use the test framework request, which gives us a few more methods. Alright, now request set module name, which is actually the front name, not the module name. This is still a Magento 1 legacy, Magento Kata. And then we also have the controller name, and the method name, I guess, is also Magento 1 legacy, index. I think the correct term in Magento 2 now would be action path, but whatever. Set action name, also index. So we are requesting a Magento Kata index action. And we want to pass this to the base router. So the full class name of base is Magento Framework App Router Base. Should we give it a nicer name? Yeah, I think we should. As base router. So we'll add that here and add a type hint. And okay, we expect that router to return an instance of controller index class. So this relative class name here will be completed using our namespace. Since we haven't imported any namespace ending with controller, it will be completed using our current namespace. And now we can say this assert instance of current action base router match request. Let's see the test fail. Since the class doesn't exist yet, probably PHP-unit will complain that the first argument has to be a valid class or interface name. Yep, here we go. So let's go ahead and create this action controller. First we'll make the controller index subdirectories and an index action class in there. And that's not quite enough yet, because the base router will only see classes that implement the action interface or extend from the abstract action class. Where does it get the action instance? The action class name, and the action class name is fetched from the action list, and that's where it filters out non-action classes. So we either have to implement the action interface, or we have to extend the abstract action. This is the one. And we have to implement the execute method in here. And now we have to flush the cache yet again, because otherwise the action list instance won't see the new action we just created, because it caches the list of all the actions it finds in the system. So let's rerun the test. Good. And we're done. Everything green. Thanks for watching. In the next episode, we're going to create the contents of the index action, and we're going to test that it behaves correctly. As always, the final step in a kata is to delete all the code we wrote, so we can do the kata again. I really like hearing from you. So, as always, if you have any feedback, please leave a comment under the video or reach out to me on Twitter. I really appreciate it. If you liked it, please leave a thumbs up. Thank you for watching. Until next time.